The flashing red and blue lights illuminated the quiet suburban street, bouncing off the parked cars and storefronts. Officer Jake Holden adjusted his belt and stepped out of his cruiser, his boots crunching against the pavement as he approached the sleek black sedan that had just pulled over. His hand rested on his holster, more out of habit than necessity, though he always felt an extra sense of authority when dealing with black drivers. "License and registration," he barked, before the driver even had a chance to roll the window all the way down. Inside the car, the man in the tailored navy suit barely raised an eyebrow. He reached into the glove compartment with deliberate slowness, pulling out the requested documents before handing them over. His fingers were steady, his demeanor calm, too calm for Holden's liking. "Do you know why I stopped you?" Holden asked, narrowing his eyes. The driver glanced at his watch before looking up, meeting Holden's gaze with a sharp, unreadable expression. "No, officer, but I'm sure you're about to tell me." Holden frowned. Something about this man put him on edge. He was too composed, too self-assured. Holden had stopped plenty of black drivers before, and most were either nervous or angry. But this one, he was different. "You rolled through a stop sign back there," Holden lied. In truth, the driver had done no such thing, but that had never stopped Holden before. The man sighed, as if deeply inconvenienced, and nodded. "I see." Holden shined his flashlight into the vehicle, sweeping it across the interior. Expensive leather seats, a briefcase on the passenger side, a badge clipped to the man's belt. "Wait." Holden's breath caught in his throat as his eyes zeroed in on the badge. It wasn't a police badge. It was a shield with 3 bold letters embossed in the center. IA, Internal Affairs. A sudden chill ran through Holden's spine as he registered the name on the license. Marcus Reynolds, Deputy Director of Internal Affairs. "Oh, shit," Holden muttered under his breath, but Reynolds had heard him. "You were saying, Officer Holden?" Reynolds leaned back in his seat, his expression one of mild amusement. "Something about a stop sign?" Holden's mind raced. This was bad, really bad. He had pulled over the one person who had the power to investigate officers like him, the very man whose name had been whispered in precinct locker rooms with dread. Holden had heard stories about Reynolds, the cases he had cracked, the corrupt cops he had put behind bars. If there was anyone in law enforcement you didn't want to screw with, it was him. "I, just wanted to make sure everything was okay, sir," Holden stammered, his previous bravado evaporating. "Routine traffic stop." Reynolds chuckled softly. "Routine, huh? Tell me, Officer Holden, do you often conduct routine traffic stops based on fabricated violations?" Holden's mouth went dry. He could deny it, but what was the point? Reynolds already knew, and if Reynolds knew, then Internal Affairs knew. His career was hanging by a thread, and the man sitting in that car held the scissors. Reynolds reached for his phone and started typing. "Tell me, Holden, how long have you been on the force?" 8 years, Holden answered automatically. "And how many times have you pulled over drivers like me under similar circumstances?" Holden hesitated. He had no answer that wouldn't bury him further. Reynolds didn't wait for a response. He turned the phone screen toward Holden. It was a live call with the chief of police. "Sir," Reynolds said, his voice smooth, professional. "I'm sitting here with one of your officers, Jake Holden. Pulled me over on a false stop, likely part of a pattern. I think we need to have a conversation about his conduct." The color drained from Holden's face as the chief's voice crackled through the speaker. "Reynolds, I apologize for any—" Reynolds cut him off. "I'd rather talk in person. I'll be stopping by first thing tomorrow." Holden swallowed hard. He had been caught. There was no wiggling out of this one. As Reynolds ended the call, he glanced up at Holden once more, his expression unreadable. "Here's what's going to happen," Reynolds said, sliding his ID back into his jacket. "You're going to let me go. And then, you're going to think long and hard about your career choices." Holden stiffly nodded and stepped back, waving Reynolds off like a nervous rookie. As the black sedan pulled away, Holden stood motionless, his stomach twisted in knots. He had spent years believing he was untouchable, that his badge gave him unchecked power. But in one fateful stop, he learned the hard way. There was always someone watching, someone ready to bring justice to those who thought they were above it. And tonight, that justice had a name: Marcus Reynolds.